morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Dave Rogers, and today I have New Zealand First Light with Miss Gillian. And how are you today, Gillian?
I'm excellent. Thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to see you and have the opportunity to talk to you again.
Oh, it's beautiful to be able to connect to New Zealand, who's a day ahead. So you're already into December 22nd, whereas
Yeah.
Canada, I'm still celebrating the winter solstice. And I really wanted to connect with you given the experiences you've had, excuse me, with 2020. And can you tell us a little bit about you and why did you write your book?
Okay. I'm a registered nurse. I've been nursing across a range of different nursing fields for the last, it's becoming nearly 30 years. And so my specialty for the last, when did I start in aged care services? Consulting full-time in aged care services since 1999. So working with aged care nursing homes throughout New Zealand and looking, of course, at what's happening internationally. And in New Zealand, we don't have a formal nurse manager training course for the people that are running facilities to actually go through to learn the skills and things they need. So one of the roles that I've taken on over the years is when things have gone wrong in a nursing home, and you know, it's huge work, it's 24/7. In New Zealand we have 40,000 residents in nursing care homes, looked after by 40,000 approximately staff. And so when you add up the variables and multiply that out over 24/7, 7 days of the week, 52 weeks of the year, there's a lot of opportunity for things to go right, but also occasionally for things to go wrong. And sometimes those things go wrong because people just don't know what they don't know. So this has become my specialty area, working in compliance and excellence in aged care. And so this book that I have here,
Yes,
365 pages, one for each day of the year, as it happens, I wrote out of frustration, really. Being called in to do crisis management roles in care facilities where things had gone wrong and there was trauma and people being very troubled by the situation around them and being adversely affected by the situation around them, whether it was their health, their mental state, you know, their whatever, in a whole range of ways. And, you know, when we think about holistic care, it wasn't just the residents, but the staff. And so I thought, you know, there's got to be a better way. Coming in and being the ambulance at the bottom of the hill is not okay. I don't want this to be needed. So I thought, okay, why is this happening? It's because people don't know what they don't know. I've been specialising in this. It's all in here. Let's get it out of here and put it into here. So excellence in residential care is the product of that.
Well, I'm inviting anyone who is experiencing experiences with elderly care to reach out to this, to you, to this book, because that idea that you put over 20 years experience into a book, 364 pages. Some people might benefit from chapter 4, others chapter 7. Governments can benefit from it. I'm aware that you get called in when there's challenges with the health professional per different elderly care centers in New Zealand. We've introduced you to people in Singapore and palliative care, and there's just so much that can be served by conversation beforehand, by putting in protocol beforehand, by allowing trauma strategies beforehand instead of putting out the fires all the time. So thank you for your service for putting that together. I do have a little tricky question though, is let's breathe and distill down the key theme of your book. One main takeaway, given that most books are never read fully, what would be one real main takeaway from the book?
The key objective of the book really is to be a tool, a resource. So it doesn't matter, it's got a very detailed index at the front of it. So one thing I know is a lot of nurses in New Zealand are the same age as myself or a little bit older, and we're all needing to wear these. So the font is suitably sized. The layout is easy to read, and people reading it that know me have said, you know, it's just like talking to you. because this has come from real experience off the floor. So it's helping preempt and I guess open up that information so that people know what to expect coming into aged care. It's a very different nursing field to any other, because in any other field it's acute services. You're in, you're stabilised, you're out. This is long term. This is holistic. This is every part of the person. You know, their mind, their soul, their spirit, their body, you know, their nutrition, their sense of being and belonging, and how do you actually support that within an environment that's artificially set, and we call it their home, but it's never going to be what their home was. So it's very, very complex, and so putting all of the information together to help those different aspects. So it didn't matter which role, whether it was the governance team or the new nurse coming on the floor, or the diversional therapy staff, or even, you know, the cleaners and the catering staff. You know, there's something in there for each one of them to help guide them about where they fit into that mix, and where, you know, they're not just all sort of, you know, separate fingers without a hand. They all come together and join as that, you know, very integral, interconnected team that support each one of those residents, because they're all so different.
Well, I want to take this moment just to thank you, Gillian, because some of the conversations that we had where you shared some of the extraordinary situations that you were in caring and offering your home and to nurture. This past year with being in elderly care with my parents, the messages you shared about compassion and patience and kindness, it brings a tear to my eye, because those are the biggest lessons I got from 2020. And a big part of it was because of the conversations that we had. You opened me up to applying it. It's one thing to read it and to study it. It's another thing to apply it. And that those lessons about compassion and patience particularly, and then that infusion of kindness has really made my 2020 so magical and mystical in being with my parents in this journey, and then being of service to other people that are going through the grief, the pain, the suffering, yet also the joy and the celebration. And it's been quite a journey, and I think we shared a little bit about the journey, and this year has been magical. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing that, Dave. That's really beautiful, because one of the things, you know, I can write all the words down. I can put the science of nursing down in paper and into words. And as you say, it's then implementing, and that's the art of nursing. That's the art of nurturing. You know, we take the word nurse and turn it into nurture. And that's what it is, because it's all about feeling. At the end of the day, as humans, we're, you know, from my perspective, it's about how we feel. You know, I know it's cliche, but there's that saying, people won't remember what you say, but they will remember how you make them feel.
Well, again, I'm going to skip ahead, because I follow my questions very strictly. Yet the idea, what you just said, it's this nurture, it's this nurture, and then what you've been doing is going into nature and really nurturing gardens. Share us a little bit about that, how that has impacted your year and what's going on in your life.
It's helped fill me. It's helped just recharge me, and to be able to get my hands in the soil and earth myself.
Yes, beautiful.
It really has allowed me to center and earth myself, to give what I wouldn't have had otherwise. Because, you know, in these roles, we nurture, we give out, you give out, you give out. But at the end of the day, it's like a bank account. It becomes empty. And you've got to then sort of, for me, coming back onto this, you know, we have the very fortunate opportunity to have a big piece of land here. We're creating 3.5 acres of garden. I've put in 13 different garden areas over the last 18 months. And that's been nurturing me. But, you know, as much as I've grown the seeds or propagated the plants or been gifted plants, each area of the garden, or even down to the plants and the trees in the garden, are named. You know, we have dear friends of ours, the Frasers. They have a Fraser garden. My fiance Jared, his sister Michelle is just a dear person. She has, you know, we have Michelle's garden.
Beautiful.
My son has an apple tree, you know, that's Michael's tree. You know, everybody, the friends and family are all in amongst me in the garden and the concept of plants and nurturing and growing and producing and seeing the beauty that's coming from that it gives me the energy and certainly helps that balance.
Well, anyone who's listening to this, apply it. Like in 2021, look for ways to plant, to nurture, to grow, to self-care. These are so important.
Yes.
To have an amazing year. And I thank you, Gilly, for sharing that. Let me shift the gear a little bit. Advice to a first or new or aspiring author. What would your 1 or 2 words of advice be to a aspiring author?
1 or 2 words: start. Just start. Just do it. You know, don't think you have to plan it all and prepare it all. I was very fortunate in having a conversation in Auckland with actually with Dave and some other friends, one of them being Justin Herold from Australia. And he had a concept of writing a book in 7 days. And I'd been to an advisor, actually. She was a financial advisor who had written books, and I just happened to be talking to her. And I had this book inside me. And actually, it wasn't this book. It was a whole different book I was going to write. But I had the concept of wanting to write a book. And I said to her, she was a nice lady, and I thought she'll give me some advice. And she says, it's a long, drawn-out process. It takes, at least 3 years, and it's, it really sounded so bogged down. And then I met Justin, and he said, no, do it in 7 days. What are your key topics? Then break it down. What are the key 3 things or something or other that you want to put in each of those? Decide how many words, what's the average size of a book? Okay, how many chapters? Break it down. These are the words per chapter. And he gave me this really beautiful, very simple formula that made it easy to just start. So I set up a spreadsheet, and I had each one, and your word count is on your computer, so I could see where I was at. I knew the breakdown of the key topic and 2 or 3 things underneath, and it just flowed. And if it didn't flow in this chapter today, it didn't matter, because I could then go and work on this chapter over here. It didn't sort of all have to flow like a novel. This is a book that's used as a reference book, so you can just pick it up, and it's a self-help book for, I guess, in a way, for nurses and managers. So you go to the bit that you need to see at the time, and that helps, give that information that's just going to help take one step. So writing the book was like giving birth. It was going through a gestation period, and at the end, launching the book was like taking your baby out into the world, knowing it's going to be judged, but actually it's my book. So it doesn't matter. There is no judgment, because, get on the playing field. You don't make a judgment from the stands. Get on the playing field, get in there, whether it's a pen or a computer, laptop, tablet, whatever it is. Just start putting it out of here, down, to share it with others. It's to be shared.
Great advice, Gilly. Thank you so much. Spot on. Get started. Speak from your heart, speak from your head, get started and do it. Let's play a little visualization or manifestation game. My next question for you is, if we can get this book into the hands of influential people, who would you like us to get this book to, let's say, in the next 6 to 9 months?
Nursing tutors, the people, the education, the nursing education sector, really, just to help them share that information that's the real practical implementation information. Theory is one thing. By the time theory gets into a curriculum of a teaching training program for nurses, it's already out of date. Things are moving so fast. But this is the real stuff. This is what's happening on the floor. I'm going to rewrite sections of it and in the next edition, because yes, since I wrote it, we've started taking on electronics a lot more, and certainly over the last year with COVID, we've gone into telehealth a lot more. So there are things that aren't in the book that I would now like to add because it's evolving, but the key concepts are exactly the same.
Well, I love it, Gilly, because it's evolving just like you are. And if there is a way that people can reach out to you, where can they get a copy of the book? We'll type that in the comments. In fact, we're going to encourage anyone that if they want to reach out to Gilly, go get a copy of the book, talk to her, maybe even be part of an update, because you are going to be engaging other healthcare professionals around the world to make it the standard. Because again, New Zealand is the standard, and you are orchestrating a big part of that. So that's where, if anyone is seeing this video today and you know someone in the healthcare professional, share it with them, invite it, and they get this flavor of holistic health. Gilly is the embodiment of that. She not only walks the talk, she's nurturing the garden. And she is the garden. So that's the beautiful thing that I feel that comes out of today. So what would be some ways people get a copy of your book?
Okay, through a website, HCSL, hcsl.co.nz, or it is available through Amazon, or they can email me simply, jill@agedcarecompliance.com. So that's GILL at agedcare, AGEDCARE, compliance.com. And I will certainly reply. When I wrote this book, one of the first things I did, just putting in the ideas, was other leaders in aged care services in New Zealand. I sent them out a template and I said, if you wanted to share information in a book about these topics, what are the key things that you would want to see? So it became a collaboration as well. And you know, this is where, as you say, it is about connecting with others, sharing the ideas. This is certainly not just what's my thoughts. This is a collaboration, a collection of others and their wisdom and advice and support. And
well, as we move into one of those sacred numbers, it's going to be 333 in Canada, which again, you know how I love to play with 1111 and 333, and I was up this morning at 421, which is again a mystic number. Let's just give a bonus. What was your favorite either movie or book or learning that you had in 2020?
Oh, in 2020, my favorite learning actually was that when I started years ago, I had this sort of little imposter syndrome thing going on. You know, I expected people to come and tap me on the shoulder and say, what do you think you're doing? Who do you think you are? You know, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, actually, we all do. We all have our own version of what we're doing, and it's a version that's worth sharing and should be shared. And one of the things that's happened in the last year, as part of being one of 6 nurses in New Zealand that are part of the nursing leadership group representing aged care for the whole of New Zealand, so there's myself and 5 others, we recently got to go and present in Parliament to the politicians and say what it is that we need for aged care services and what aged care services need to ensure our older people are nurtured and looked after and cared for in a way that they deserve to be cared for. So I would have been terrified of even the thought of going and doing that before. But, you know, here I am, and I go along there and I talk to these people, and then afterwards I'm sitting in the lounge at the airport waiting to take a flight, and one of the politicians that was sitting in this, you know, select committee room comes and says, oh, you're the lady, one of the ladies from the meeting today, and I've got a couple more questions. And he sits down and we have this very, very normal conversation. Next thing, Todd Muller, who was the previous, the former leader of the National Party here, and his daughter come over and join. And they're having a beautiful father-daughter week. They're not politicians. These are people that all have a shared interest in doing the right thing. And, you know, as I say, I would have been terrified of speaking to these people before. But this year has shown me that actually we all have a universal point of connection. And it's stepping away from ego, stepping away from fear and the imposter syndrome, and thinking, actually, I do belong here. You know, I have something worth saying, and otherwise these people wouldn't be asking me. So,
you have definitely stepped into your divine goddess, your divine feminine, your divine healer. And I guess I'm going to have to read this because it's been sitting with me, right? And it's called Mama Gaia. So this is a little bit to you, and it's all to the women who are the change makers that we know you are. Mama Gaia, she walks dark earthen places. Her light shines in all faces. She's fierce and fires burning. Hurrah! She's tree, fern, and fishes, the source of earthly blisses. She's kindness in a rainbow. Hurrah! Oh, Mama Gaia.
beautiful,
And
beautiful.
it is such a beautiful celebration for me to have an opportunity to connect with you as the end of 2020 comes to a completion. And I just want to thank you for all the wonderful work you did this year. Thank you for this book that you've put together, and have an invitation to any healthcare system, government, school that wants best practices. I have a feeling, and I truly believe you're the person to contact. So thank you so much, Jilly.
Thank you, Dave. This has been a joy talking to you and sharing. Wishing you every blessing for Christmas, for New Year, for the year ahead. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay, we will bring the Facebook Live to a completion.